Hey y'all, this is Port 11919 with Headframe Hunters. We're here with episode 4 of the mining series. So we're at what we're going to be calling mine number 2, which in all likelihood is the one that we're more likely to be operating. So my 911 actually mined a fair bit of ore here within the last couple of years, but the mine is currently shut down, or just mostly waiting on funding, to be honest. So we're going to come down here, check the water level, and take some samples. We're just doing a routine assessment. So there's 3 working levels in this mine. There's the magazine level, which we're coming up to. There's the 130 level, which we're hoping is above water. And then there is the lowest level. So here is the magazine level. On the right, you can see how it gets its name. A whole bunch of split sets. And then, oh, would you look at this? This beautiful hunk of junk is IMCO 913 3-yard mucker. And when I say hunk of junk, I do mean hunk of junk. She's got to smoke at least 2 packs a day. So this is sort of a stope / raise. Probably pulled 500 tons out. Then that was raise mined all the way up into the President tunnel. And they drove it, back another 40 feet or so there.
Nice pseudonym.
So I'm up in the Magazine Stope now. That's Pecos's light down there. So got a little double drum slusher, and this right here. So you see your slusher cable, and this is the chute. Needs a little bit of conveyor. How they were avoiding having to set up and take down quite so much when they were raise mining, or Roy's mining, as our Aussie friends like to call it. It's a multi-stage with this little scram drift in the center, so they could shoot there and only have to deal with taking down, setting up, maybe 30 vertical feet as opposed to the entire length, which is your real constraint when you're driving a conventional bald-headed raise. And then this was all ore. I'm not seeing too many holes in here, so this might have been left behind as a pillar. We'll have to talk to the superintendent and see if we want to come in and pull this pillar, stope it out. It wouldn't be too terribly difficult. Now we're looking around the bucket of the 913, which we have not so affectionately dubbed Big Chungus.
He's a big chungus. He's a big chunky boy.
Yeah, it's a bit large. It fits mostly in this mine. That's a nice big 3-yard bucket on it. Like, that's certainly appreciated, and then so is the ejector push plate, but it just doesn't quite fit in a lot of places, and it's almost gotten stuck a few times, plus the brakes on it ain't entirely trustworthy. And then here's the biggest issue with this thing. Look at the amount of space for your knees. I don't fit in it. You got to be about 5'2". So Gale fits in it. One or two guys that I've mined with other places fit in it. But I damn sure don't. I get in there and I'm smacking my knees up against the transmission firewall. Now, it does have fire suppression, which is nice. And just give you a quick tour of the controls. On the left, you got your direction selector. On the right, you got your gear selector. See, it's a 3-speed. I believe it's a power shift. Let me look at that. 10,700 CFM nominal, but that's the old numbers that don't really match up with the new DPM standards that MSHA has set. Here's your parking brake. Here's your other thing. 5,000 CFM. This thing will smoke up a drift in a hurry. See what it's covered in is soot. It's DPM, diesel particulate matter. And then here you got your boom, bucket, and your ejector push plate controls. So yeah, here's your instrument panel. It does have preheat, which is interesting. Your hour meter, so she's got 1689. And that's going to be hours since rebuild, more than likely. These are a different style of tire. They're called L6S. They're smooth. They're just a really thick tread, specially constructed mine tire. And then our suspicion about why this thing smokes so much is caused from back here. So here's your cat. It goes up into your stack. But the problem is that this right here is open air. We think. Yes, that's a 360-degree tour of Big Chungus. We'd rather run a good 2-yard down here than this machine. And we did track one down by the border. I don't figure it'd actually come over here anytime soon, but we'd certainly like it to. But for now, we're going to be running my 1-yard 911 and 5-ton young buggy or two. We'd like to get my young buggy's twin down here, but there's really no guarantee as to when that'll happen. So now we're gonna take off further down the decline. On our way down to the 130 level, come across this bad boy, which is a Gardner Denver 3100A air track drill. This is a lot like the one that I own, only it's red, and it's been sitting out in the sun on the Navajo Nation for 25 years, and it's got some modifications. Now, I don't believe this is the one that's got the hydraulic centralizer. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I think it doesn't have the centralizer goes on this one. It's just not installed.
Yeah, because that looks like a conventional.
Yeah, it's just a regular clamp.
Yeah. Now, what we do have on her is this right here are your drill feed controls. Not your positioning, I believe. I believe that's on the back of the machine.
Yeah, the actual tramming controls are still on the back, but all the drill controls, they took off and moved to the front.
Yeah, so we'll be able to stand right where I'm at, watch your steel. Make sure you're still drilling at the right rate. You don't lose your water or anything into a fissure. And what's the longest they've been able to drill with this thing? Like 120?
50 feet?
Yeah.
Longer.
Yeah, like productively. And then I think they did about 125 foot for a high pressure water disposal plan. That was then obsoleted by the NPDES permit, so we can just turn the pumps on and discharge into the creek, because the water here is essentially drinking water, which is cool. And this is another muck bay. So they drove this decline with a pair of Imco 912Bs back about 10 years ago. And we're going to come in, we hope, and get some values out of it. Maybe deep in the decline, but that will probably be at a later date. So now we're going to keep on down to the 130. So the bad news is that that's our water line right there. The good news is that we've arrived at the 130 level. So this is driven towards hole B9110. That's Bravo 9110, which grades, I believe, about a 1/10 ounce gold and 11 ounces of silver. I don't feel like doing the mental math, but it should be pretty apparent from that it's decent. Like, that's on the good end of what we've been getting from sampling mine number 1, and that's from the low end of mine number 2. So the reason we came down here, I had been down here a couple months ago and recalled that they had just broken into the vein. So you can see the ore change. Oh, I say ore. You can see the change from wall rock into brecciated vein material. Now, this stuff doesn't look great, but we're still going to mess with it some. Then the other interesting part, so the lifters ain't been drilled out on this shop, but other than that, it's ready to load and fire. So this is what we'd call our air track pilot reaming technique. So you can see most of these are, an inch or two, and they'd come in with a 4-inch reamer on the air track.
That's probably a 3-inch reamer, and then the holes around it we were using 1 5/8 bit.
Sounds good. You heard Pecos. Yeah, so that's a surveyed pilot hole. It's reamed out to about 3 inches with the air track, and that's actually drilled further than the 6 or 7 foot that the production holes are drilled. So it sort of acts as a pilot hole and as well as a break-to space.
Great break-to space.
So normally, you drill 6 foot, you might get it to pull 5 foot. They were getting it to pull 6 to 7 foot. So that might not sound like a lot, picking up an extra foot or two, but when that's an extra,
that's $500 to $1,000 a foot.
Exactly. When that's an extra 30 to 40% for the same amount of powder, which the powder is one of your biggest costs down here, well, you take that and you run with it. So we've made a change in plan for tonight. So sometimes I give MSHA, a hard time for all of their regulatory BS, but sometimes they have rules that actually make a little bit of sense. One of them is no collaring in bootlegs. Now, what's a bootleg, you ask? It is the residual hole left at the face caused by a drill hole. Normally they're going to be real short, couple inches. Sometimes they look a little more like this. And then if you come over here, you can see this right here is the opening.
So the light goes all the way through.
Yeah, get your light in there. See if you can.
Just gotta get the right angle.
Yep. Yeah, if you saw that little flash of light. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. You can see it shining through.
Hey, that's why the light's not going all the way through. There's still gel dye in this hole.
Perfect. So, I already pulled this out just for illustration's sake. And you need to be very careful with this stuff because it can initiate on being stretched. There was 2 guys in Missouri get pretty badly hurt when their man basket snagged some shock tube and initiated a hole in the shot they were loading. You can see that this was severed. The shock tube was severed by another hole in the pattern that went off before it, and this is on the outside. This is on the left rib of the face, so it would have been one of the last to fire. And then there's still a booster down that hole. So we're going to be doing a hand sample only. We're not going to be running the drill because we don't want to expose this to any shock that we can help. And then we're going to have to formulate a plan to clear this. So this is why you don't collar your drill in a bootleg, because say you've got mist powder down there, and the drill the bit of your jack leg hits it, or you've got a cap down there, that can initiate it. That can fire that hole, and I'm not saying it'd kill you necessarily. It could, but it'd certainly be a pretty damn bad day.
It'd ring the fuck out of your bell.
Oh yeah, it would. So yeah, this is going to be a hand sample only day, which is unfortunate because this is the most appetizing part of the face. Like, there's some pretty decent brecciation in there.
Bug holes. Like,
Yeah.
Those aren't drill holes right there. Those are bugs.
Yep. Bug holes, montramite, brecciation, starting to get into quartz. Yeah, and this is still supposedly 40 feet from that hole, so what we're talking about doing, if we can, depending on the circumstances that we can lease this mine, talking about personally funding it and going in and highballing the 40 or 50 feet, running into that, and then going from there. So this is our hand chip sample, about a 4 foot by 4 foot, or 4 foot by 4 inch by 6 inch. No, the quartz is more in the spaces in between the brecciated andesite, so we don't think this is going to run for gold and silver. It might run for base metals. Maybe. But, you know, we needed to come down here and check some stuff anyhow because of some other issues in the district. Shall we say, Epoxy Dan, Speed Freak LS1, Mr. Kevin Smith. Yeah, we know who y'all are. And you're on the radar of some 3-letter agencies. So now we've come to the top of the decline, which is about the end of this video. I guess I'm out of breath. I just hauled a 30-pound bucket of tools up from there. So originally, this was supposed to be a rail decline with a single curve in it. But as you probably picked up, that's not really what happened. So the rail plan was abandoned, and it's been worked entirely with rubber tire equipment. It was kind of a cool plan, because there's kind of see it, there's a skip road running up to Hoist House and Tipple, which would have been pretty nice for directly loading out trucks if it had been set up with, say, a camel dump or a camelback dump and an ore bin. But that was not to be. And this mine has been worked entirely with a variety of 1, 2, and 3 yard LHDs. I'd like to mix some 5-ton trucks into the ring, because it'll be a lot more efficient hauling out of there. But that's going to be it for mine number 2. This has been Port 1119 with Headframe Hunters. Thank y'all very much for watching, guys. Adios.